Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we have a session on integration strategies for Microsoft Dynamics 365 finance implementations. My name is Hassan Mohsini. I'm the program manager for Microsoft Reactor in Abu Dhabi. Microsoft Reactors are hubs for founders and developers to meet, learn, and connect to local peers, as well as industry-leading ideas and technology from Microsoft partners and the open source community. It's also home to the Microsoft for Startups program. With a diverse mix of hands-on workshops, expert panels, and community events, there's something for everyone. Check out our calendar of events on meetup.com and join our coming sessions. Our speaker today is Faisal Farid. Faisal is a technical architect with a strong background in application development using Microsoft technologies. Currently focuses on Microsoft Dynamics 365, finance and supply chain management. Faisal has a passion for D365 FinOps development and also is involved in integration architectures. Faisal is a Power Platform and a D365 community leader for Pakistan, and also been running a dedicated finance professional group in Australia and New Zealand region. You can connect with him on both Twitter and LinkedIn. I put the handles on the slide here, and also I encourage you to keep the Q&A tab open during today's session. I'll be sharing some resources, and you can also send us all your questions relating to today's topic. Thank you, Faisal, for joining us today. Looking forward to the topic, and without any further delay, I would like to hand over the mic to you to start the session.
Thank you so much, Hussam, for giving me this opportunity. Let me know when you can see my screen. It's all good.
It's all good.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Hussam and Abu Dhabi Microsoft Reactor for giving me this opportunity to speak onto this platform yet another time. So today's talk is, I'm going to talk about the integration strategies for finance and operations with Power Platform. So there are a couple of options available, different strategies available which you can choose from when you are integrating finance and operations with Power Platform. So now it's a time where we are integrating different apps of the Microsoft ecosystem. So, and we need to decide based on our business requirements and performance and so many factors which are involved. So today's talk, we are going to discuss few options. My name is Faisal Farid. As Hussam mentioned, I'm a Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations Technical Solution Architect working at DXC Technology in Australia region. If you want to get in touch with me, please feel free to send me an email. You can tweet me. You can. I do write blogs. You can follow me on my blogs, and I do have my YouTube channel. Have been working into this Microsoft Dynamics Finance and Operations industry since last 12 years as of now, mainly into the development and architecture stuff, and have been involved into so many implementations, installations, and now since last 3 to 4 years, mainly focusing onto the integrations part and where we are touching the Power Platform too. I am the ANZ Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations team lead and also the founder of this group. We are running this group with the volunteers and also few of my very old friends. We are all running together this group. I'm also running a Dynamics 365 user group for Pakistan, and I'm also the Power Community and Dynamics 365 ambassador. Today's agenda is it's very easy thing. What technology you should be using while you are doing any sort of integration. It's easy to say I want to have this data from finance and operations to Power Platform, I want to see this into my Canvas app. I want to see into my model-driven app. I want to have this one into my uh, CDS. I would say CDS for now because it's as of now I'm not used of calling it Dataverse. So apologies for that one in advance. Uh, so that we will be looking into this as part of the agenda today, and then we will discuss about what is the Microsoft ecosystem where all these apps reside. Uh, we will dive into virtual entities, what's dual write or in data integrators. We will talk about their overviews and architectures. Then I'll show you a little demo there, and at the end we will see what are the implementation considerations there. Based on to all these 6 points, you will be able to make your call by yourself based on to your all the business requirements and the criteria of which technology you should be choosing when you should be doing any sort of the integration projects there. I'll be using different types of terminologies while I will be presenting today. The official name is Dynamics Finance and Supply Chain Management, but it's very hard or long to pronounce. So sometimes I'll be saying Finance and Operations, I will be saying FNO, I'll be using FinOps. So these all relates to the one application. I will be also calling Dynamics 365 for sales, customer engagement, or sometime I will be calling it to a CDS instance or Dataverse. So if I will be using the data integrator or I'll be using the DI, so that's actually relates to the data integrator. If I'll be using the DW, which is the dual write, and out of the box is OTB. So these are the little bit acronyms which I have put together just to help and to understand if I'll be using or if you may see these acronyms have been used in rest of my presentation. So it might help you to understand what does that mean. So very first slide, that's actually I've taken this from Microsoft Docs site. So what we need to understand here, you need to choose your right technology. So nowadays, we are hearing a lot about the dual write. We have worked onto the data integrator side here. So we have spent 1 or 2 years onto the data integrator. Then early this year in March, end of March, I think so, the dual write was generally available, and then we have the virtual entities. So virtual entities, if we talk about the virtual entities is not the new concept. It has been there into the CDS instance maybe from 2017. Now, what Microsoft is spending a lot of investment onto these virtual entities and integrating this so that we can use the CDS, the virtual entities which lives within a CDS instance. We can call data directly from finance and operations. So I'll show you all the details shortly in a demonstration there. So if we talk about the attributes, so scenarios, if you want to have the real-time integration, you want to have your application connected from finance and operations and one of the apps from the CDS instance, it can be field services, it can be sales, it can be marketing, anything. So if you want to have a real-time data copying between the environments, then your answer is the dual write. And it is a synchronous process. It happens at the same time without any delay. So you can define your directions. Next one is it's a bidirectional there. Data is duplicated. Whatever the data you will have into FNO, it will also, you will see into the CDS environment. If you talk about the logic, it's an auto business logic execution there. So whatever the logic if we talk about from finance and operations point of view, it's all data entities there. So you can write your all data and all your logic within the classes, data entities. From the CDS point of view, you can write your flows, you can write your plugins there. So you can maintain your logic, business logic there. It does support the offline scenarios, which is uh, uh, which I have talked so much on other platforms, on other occasions where I have talked about how does the dual write work with the offline scenarios. So I'll show you in a bit what does it mean catch up capabilities there. Now, if we talk about the virtual entities in comparison to the dual write, so if we see the scenario, it's a real-time CRUD operation. So it does provide you create, read, update, and delete operations there. So uh, there is no synchronous, there is no pattern defined for virtual entities. We can't name it. It's a synchronous process. It's an asynchronous process. Uh, there is no. It doesn't have any directions there. So there will be a. Why do we have these two things not applicable here? Because the data remains always into your source. So virtual entities live within CDS instance, but you can connect with any data source there. You make a call with financial operations, read the data from there. That's it. That's a JSON API. It make a call and then reads the data and puts the data. It keeps the data remain into your source environment, which is in our scenario, which is a finance and operations environment. Now, if we look at the data integrator there, data integrator this is not a real time. It's a schedule bit. It's an asynchronous process. You fire the process, you wait it for it to finish, and once it's finished, it's done. And it's always a unidirectional. It's one directional. Data is definitely it's a quite similar concept for as dual write. Data is duplicated there. Whatever the data we have for the sales quotations into CDS environment, once we will copy this data from CDS to FNO environment, all the sales quotations will be duplicated in both the environments. Now, from where all these integrations or this digital digital feedback loop starts there. So if we look into this picture here, we have the customer engagement app sitting over here. We want to optimize some operations there. We have some products sitting there which we want to transform, and at the same time we also want to empower our employees. So all different nature of businesses sitting aside, and then we want to combine all the apps. We want to get data from all the different apps over here, and we want to put some intelligence on that data there. This is the whole concept of the digital feedback loop here. And to accomplish this one, there are different apps available here. So if we talk about the Microsoft Dynamics 365, which I've been calling as a customer engagement. So these are the different apps available here: marketing, sales, commerce, service. And now if we see here operations and finance, these used to be a different product previously. Now what has happened, Microsoft has considered or created this as an app here as part of the whole Microsoft ecosystem. So all apps can talk together and share and retrieve data. And last is the talent, which is the empower employee system here. And using any of the apps, we are leveraging Power Platform on top of that one. So we can create Power Apps, we can create Power Portals, Power BI, Power Flows, which is now Power Automate, we call it. And not only these ones, we can also use any of these apps from Microsoft. We can integrate it with Azure. We can create Azure IoTs there. We can connect to our LinkedIn, Office 365. We can use any sort of Visual Studio developer tools there. So it's all together. And how these things are connected here, if we see the Microsoft ecosystem here. So Microsoft ecosystem is based onto the 5 distinct pillars. So within the Microsoft stack. So these are the 5 different pillars. So one is the productivity, second business apps, Azure and data analysis there, third party apps which if we have, and then we have the purpose built apps sitting over there. So if we talk about the first, we talk about the business applications here. So these are the main focus which we are talking about today. So business applications, we have sales, customer services, field services, and then going forward, we have finance and operations sitting over here. So these are all business applications here. Everything is actually writing back the data into the dataverse, which we used to call the common data services here. Everything is writing back the data over here. Once you will drop the data from one of the business app to your CDS database, now it will be a matter of just pulling this data back from the CDS, and you can use any of the other apps on top of that one. So it's a productivity. You can create a Power BI report based on top of that one. You can use your SharePoint. You can connect with your Teams now, which is already implemented as a Microsoft Teams with Dataverse there. And now if we want to do around some sort of analysis, some insights, you can always use one of these services available from Microsoft and get this data and analyze on that one. You can also connect with your other apps with Dataverse. There are almost 400 connectors available for this purpose. You can create your apps, which is a quite common scenarios nowadays. You can create your Canvas app, you can create your flows there, you can define your business processes. So everything is happening onto this particular database. So finance and operation is actually writing data back into the CDS, and once we get the data over here, we can use one of the pillars available here and do whatever we want to. Now, switching gears here, if we talk about the Power Platform and finance and operations environment here, so this big oval, this is actually defines the Power Platform here. It depends on your Power Apps there, Power BI, Automate, and AI Builder sitting over there as part of the Power Platform. And then out of this one, we have dual write, data integrator, and there are different connectors available which we use to connect through Power Platform. So these are the out of the box connectors which we use and connect with Power Platform. Now, this is the current situation. That was the situation before coming to virtual entities. Now, what has happened, if we see the next slide here, so that part, which was onto the right-hand side, dual write, data integrator, and operations connector, where we used to connect with the Power Platform, we use dual write to connect to Power Platform. We use data integrator to connect to Power Platform. We used to use operations connector to connect to Power Platform. Now, if we remove these connectors from here, and we want to keep this finance and operations inside this CDS over here. If you see here, it is inside now. So which means now my finance and operations data will natively be available within a CDS environment. By doing so, you don't need to have any sort of connector anymore. So that's what we are going to look into as first option as a virtual data entities here. So virtual data entities, it's available as part of the 10.0.12 or later version of finance and operations. And if you see the common data services, which is a Dataverse, and then you have to have at least a service update 189 or later. So once you have all these two prerequisites available, then you can implement your virtual entities there. So how we can connect the CDS virtual entities for finance and operations app here. So first, we will just go quickly to the theoretical process steps here. So finance and operations available as data source in CDS now. So you don't need to have a separate connector anymore. So whatever the data source we have, finance and operations, it's natively available within CDS. It supports all current operations there. FNO data entities available natively in CDS. So that is what we talked about, the data sources here. There is no replication. Data will always remain into your finance and operations. And dual write continues to address scenarios where data needs to be physically copied between the apps. So it's not like this, the virtual entity is now in a market, it's available. Now we don't need to implement the dual write or the data integrator. These three technologies are complementary, which means these can run at the same time without any conflict. What Microsoft has done here, it's a next step towards the Power Platform. What we are trying to do over here, we are sending the finance and operations data through virtual entities back to Power Platform. Once we have our finance and operations data back into finance and operations environment, so then big doors are open for us. We can create Power BI reports. We can create different sort of apps there. We can definitely write flows, which is Power Automate. We can work onto the intelligence and create Power Virtual Agents there. And most importantly, we can create our custom portals using Power Platform there. So this arrow does not indicate the direction here. It is only showing we are actually sending data through virtual entities to Power Platform. So that's the next step which Microsoft has achieved already here, is generally available. If we look at the architecture of the virtual entities here, so that's our common data services here. If we say within a common data services, we have a database here. Good. We have native entities, which are the regular or physical entities available. It also performs all the CRUD operations. Okay, that's nice. Then we have Power Apps, Power Automate, and UCI and OData, etc. Everything is working fine into the native data entities. Now, Microsoft brought a new concept called CRUD, virtual entities here. Virtual entities, you can see these, it has no relationship with the CDS database exactly, because this data, whatever the data will be coming into the virtual entities, it's not stored anywhere. It's actually virtual entities plugin. What it does, it's a JSON web service. It make a call to the web API. And this is where we are talking about the finance and operations management over here. We have the database of finance and operations. Tables are linked to the database. On top of tables, we have data entities there. If we want to make our own data call, we can definitely use in parallel using the data entities. Similarly, there is a web API which is being implemented on top of the entities there. And this web API from FNO and this virtual entities plugin from CDS point of view, it makes a JSON call to the web service. So there is a web service, it makes a JSON web service call, give me this data, this data, this data. It sends some attributes, some parameter back to FNO to this web service, and then retrieves the data from there. Okay, so now I'll just jump to my environment here. So if you haven't seen the finance and operations environment or the CDS or CE environments as of now, so I'll just, as part of my so many presentations, I always give a little bit look and feel for all the attendees if they haven't seen as of now both the apps there. So this is the finance and operations there. This is how it looks like. You have all the different modules onto your left-hand side. You accounts payable, accounts receivable. There are so many modules. This is a complete ERP, complete finance applications there. You can perform so many operations into the finance and operations. It's a very rich application. Then if we talk about the CD customer engagement, this is how it looks like there. These are the different apps which we have installed as part of the installation process. If so, not all the apps comes by default. You have to install few of the apps as required, and it also depends on the licensing there. What's the step over here is to so if we talk about the data entities there first, so virtual entities, sorry. What you have to do first, the first part of the step is if we go back to the environment here. So that's my environment. This is from my CDS environment. What we have to do, we just have to go to this particular solution and we have to install that solution back into that environment. So the process here is if we go back to the admin portal of the Power Platform, you go to the resources, you go to the Dynamics 365 apps over there, and you can search for the virtual. So that's called the finance and operations virtual entity over here. So there we installed a couple of options there. So what you have to do is just choose this one and say, I want to install this one. Just choose your environment over there, whatever the environment you want to choose. Let's say I want to choose this my demo environment. I would say yes, I want to install this one. Since we have seen, I just have installed this finance and operations virtual entity solution. It's already installed into my this pre-sales ANZ environment over here, and this is already installed here. So what you have to do, you will just choose this install. It will install, and maybe in next few minutes, once it's installed into your new environment, then it will start appearing over here. So it has a different sort of options and tables and actions available over here. So this is a part of your tool, right? This is a part of your virtual entity solution over here. Now, that is the first step here. You have to install this solution first. It's very easy. You can just get it from your app source and install it. It is a maybe few minutes task. So that's the first step over here. Then once you are done with this one, you just go to your environment, go to the advanced settings there, and then go to the administration. And this is where you can see the virtual entity data sources sitting over here. Click onto that one. Once after you have installed the solution, this finance and operations solution will start appearing over here. Click onto this one here, and then you will see what is the environment it is linked to. This is my finance and operations target environment over here. That's the authentication URL, and then the tenant ID and the application ID. So tenant ID and application ID, what you have to do, you have to create your Active Directory. So I'll just quickly see if I still have access over here. So if we go to the, so what we have to do, you just have to create your own application registration here. And once you have access to the tenant ID, application ID, and a secret key, just keep it stored somewhere. And then once you have all this information, you just put in here tenant ID and the application ID and the secret key. So this is defines in which environment you are going to connect from the finance and operations side. That's that that's done. Now from FNO point of view, if we go back to the finance and operations side, you have to add the same application ID over here. This one, virtual entities, that's the same application ID which I created. All you have to do is another step. You have to create a one more user, which is this one, virtual entity. I just name it virtual entity here. And then you just have to give it a CDS virtual entity application role here. This is out of the box. There is no customizations as of now. These are the steps available, and it's very well documented onto the Microsoft Docs article. There are links available at the end of the presentation. It's once it's done, all you have to do is go back to the environment here and go to the advanced find and available finance and operations entities. So you will see this data entity will start appearing after you install the solution. So this is everything is a part of the solution here. So if you click on to add columns, I just want to see everything here. So it has a list of around 2,418 data entities. These are the data entities which are marked as public data entities back into finance and operations. So whatever the data entities we have into finance and operations, you can check it from the data management module from finance and operations. And over there, we have a list of all the data entities available. So these are the out of the box data entities. So whatever the data entity is marked as public, which means it is externally exposed, so you will see the complete list over here into this table. So if we talk about one particular data entity here, let me just sort it out. So if I'll just take an example, asset group entity, I'll just double click this one. Once this will come back, what would happen after I will just make it visible yes here once this screen comes in. So I'll just say, okay, I want to make this one visible. Save it. So I have to close this advanced filter, and once I will restart it, what I'll see the asset group with the prefix called MS ERP, yeah, ERP, MS ERP, something like this. That will be a prefix. So this data entity, which is a part of the finance and operations, it will start showing over here as a data entity, as a table map. Sorry. So using the correct naming convention, it will start appearing here into the CDS instance as a table map. Once you have access to once you will see the table map over here, means you can browse that data within a CDS instance, and you can write your Power Portals on top of this this table entity map, table map here. Sorry, I'm keep confusing here myself. It's hard to remember all these terminologies changing overnight. So this is visible here too. I'm just going to close this one down. So I will open this again. So once this opens, and that would be it. That was the whole step to configure your virtual entities. So I'll just quickly switch back to my slides there while this will be opening. So what we have done, we have achieved by doing this demonstration here. We can create a Power App to make the data entry more simplified. You can create a Power Apps on top of this data. You can enter your data using that virtual data entities there, because it supports the CRUD operations. So you can let's say you have a user who you just want to have a timesheet entry or some sort of a data entry. You just don't want to have a proper installation for that user. You don't want to give access to that user for financial operations. You can just create a small Power Apps or a portal. Portal is basically is for the view purpose. So if you want to have some sort of a data entry level, you can create a Power Apps on top of this virtual entity, and that would be it. You can enhance the application experience with barcode scanning and pictures. You can take a picture and just send it back to finance and operation. And this is from finance and operations point of view. This is where we are sending data back to the CDS. Now CDS users, what they can do, they can access finance and supply chain data management within a CDS. Definitely the data is natively available into CDS environment. You can check all the asset maintenance information. You can check all the fixed assets directly within your CDS. You don't need to do a lot of configuration setups. So it's quite simple. As we have seen, these are the all steps we have to perform, and that would be it. There are a couple of virtual entities resources available. Please feel free to read through these ones. It's very easy and very straightforward process there. Explain each and all the aspects there. Couple of scenarios: if you integrate between different two virtual entities with a CDS, you can check this entity modeling there. If you want to integrate an existing native data entity with your virtual entities, it's also one of the scenarios discussed over here. Now, if we look into the virtual entities versus dual write or the data integrator. So as I did mention, these are all complementary, means like these all can work together. So what we are gonna look first is a data integrator here. Data integrator is it's an admin experience. It requires a lot of steps to run. You have to create your connections first. You have to create your connections. Then you have to create your connection sets, templates, and projects. It's really good when you have a lot of data to copy between the environments. And it's an asynchronous process. It's a schedule based. You have to schedule it. You can schedule it overnight and say, okay, I want to see all my invoices or all the journals or postings, whatever you want to configure. You just, I want to do it overnight. Just run the job, and it will do it for you overnight. But to start with, it requires a setup over there. So all the setups, what you can do here is, again, going back to the Power Platform. Over here in data, then you have to create your connections here first. As we have seen, these are the connections. If you create a new connection, you can choose one finance and operations and CDS there. Once you have this connection sitting over here, then all you have to do is going back to the admin center and then data integrator here. So the first step is creating a connection, which is you are creating within an environment itself. Then data integrator here. Within a data integrator, it will ask you to create a connection set. using the connection set here. You can create a new project, new connection set here. So new connection set, it will ask you, give me the connection set name, and then from there, it will ask you the connections here. So these are the connections which we have already created here as part of this step. So these are the steps which we have used, and we created the connections here. Then what we are doing, we are just creating a connection set here, linking two different connections. Once it's done, then we have to create a new project here. So the project is basically a field-to-field mapping between the two different type of data entities there. So you will be mapping finance and operations data entity with the CDS table map there. So if we look into, let's say this one, that's one of the projects. So you can see this is the accounts and customers. The source is actually account. It's coming from sales, which is a CDS, I would say, dot accounts. It's coming from the source is sales, and then it's coming back into the customer's V2 data entity into finance and operations. So you can check, this is your task here, and then you can always verify all your connections. Scheduling, you can definitely, you have to schedule this one, and you can always check the execution history. If we go back to the task, you can click onto the individual task, and then you can define all the mappings here. You can delete it, one mapping, you can create new one. So it's a process, it's an admin process. So as you can see, this can be done from the admin center. So whoever has access to the admin center, that person can only do all these steps here. This is where I was referring back into my presentation. There's an admin experience. You have to follow these steps to cover this one. And these are the different steps which I just showed there. So I just documented all those steps here. You have to just create a new project, and then connection set. That's a project it looks like. And then you just have, this is the step, fourth step, if you want to create a new project there. Now, the third option, the last option for today we got is a dual write. It's a near real time, it's a bidirectional, it's available for master data, it's reference data, and the business documents there. It also requires a lot of steps to configure. So what is the purpose of having the dual write? So if we have a Power App sitting onto the Dataverse, and it has its own database, which we have seen is a CDS database. Another app is the FNO. It has its own database, FNO. Both the applications are sitting over there. We have an option called embedded Power Apps within finance and operations. So we can create a Power App, and then we can embed that within a finance and operations. It's an out-of-the-box functionality. Once we embed this one, it actually reads data directly from CDS. So in this example, if you can see, there are two customers sitting over here, and these two customers, Alpine and Contoso, these are also sitting over here into the CDS. But the data is the Power Apps, which is embedded within finance and operation. It has two different customers, which is reading directly from the CDS environment. So if we talk about only this particular part here, which is a little bit of greenish color here. So having a one application, but we have a difference in data here. So we want to synchronize, and we want to keep the data consistent. So at that point, dual write was introduced. It actually moves data from FNO and CDS environment. Once we configure this one, you can see all the data in Power Apps, in embedded Power App and FNO. All the apps have a same database, and everything is reading directly from the CDS now. So it has the FNO database, but using this particular link, it's also syncing and copying data between CDS environment. So one database at the end of the day, and there are 3 different apps reading and displaying it differently. Data definitely available into Dataverse. So it's a very quick overview about the architecture about the dual write. If you not going into more details there, we have different type of entities here. We have different cut operations, and then we have a plug on top of that one. We have written dual write plugins. This is all happening into the CDS environment. So Microsoft has written all the dual write plugins. These actually uses the mappings and making a call through OData. Similarly, on the FNO standpoint of view, we also have the entities using the CUD operations, and then we have a standard and ISV business logic and validations, and we have the dual write handler. It also sends the data using OData, and this is how both the data come sync across to the environment, FNO and CDS environment. So in CDS, what has done as part of the dual write is Microsoft has written the dual write plugins. In FNO, Microsoft has written the dual write handlers. So these two difference which we are seeing here, plugins and handlers, these are part of the dual write core solutions. So once you install the dual write solutions, these will become automatically part of both the applications. You don't need to do anything further there. The system requirements are stated here. These are the setup instructions. What I'll do, I'll just quickly take you to the actual screen there. Now, this is not the admin experience. Everything can be done directly from finance and operations side. So what you have to do, you go to the finance and operations, go to the data management module there. There is a new tile called dual write. So once you go there, you can connect to your CDS environment. So both the environments have to be onto the same tenant. That's the first requirement. To keep the environment faster, deploy into the same Azure same location, same region, so that you can reduce the latency there. This is how it looks like, the dual write. So these are all out of the box data entities sitting over here. You can apply solution. Once you link the environment, all the processes step by steps are all documented on Microsoft Docs site, and you can also read in details about all these dual write processes, different changes, how you can extend this one on my personal blog. If you will still have any further questions, then you can reach out to me. From here, you can always apply your dual write solutions here. Once you apply your dual write solution, all the dual write mappings will start appearing over here. And if we look into the asset management models, let's say, so all the entities, all the field mappings are out of the box. But if you want to extend this one, it's really easy, because this is the data entity, actual data entity within a finance and operations. So whatever the data entity, you will be extending, you will be adding new fields there. All you just need to come over here, and on top of that one, once it comes here, you just say refresh tables. So your existing fields, so your custom fields, will start appearing here. So all you have to do then, add mapping. Then you can choose your custom field from here. You can define the directional from here, and then you can start this job. And that would be it. Now, if we're switching gears with a shortage of time, these are the different steps which I have documented as part of this presentation, which I will be sharing with Sam, so that if you want to run through this presentation, if you want to view onto all the links there, you can easily go through, and still have any questions, reach out to me. So that is we click onto the dual write. First screen will be like this. Connect to new environment, you will choose your environment from CDS point of view. Then you choose your legal entities there, whatever the legal entities available into finance and operations. These are the prerequisites. Then if you create it, the first screen will appear like this. You will have all the entities here, table maps here, sorry, and everything is not running stage. So you click onto the entity map version. You can check your all entity map version there, whatever the version you have, and then you can click onto the three dots on each and field mapping, and you can delete it, you can undo it. Activity log, different options. I have just highlighted all the options available as part of these dual right mappings here. Now, the demonstration which I have already showed you here, that was a part of the demonstration here. This is the now where do you want to use the dual right here? If we quickly go back to the presentation slides here, these are the different options available which I just have showed you. What has happened as part of the dual right here, these are the different apps as part of the CDS platform. Now what we wanted to do, we wanted to add the FNO as an app here. We have added FNO here, which was sitting separately before, but we have used either DI, which is a data integrator, or DW, which is a dual right. So we can use one of the options to integrate finance and operations as part of this whole diagram. With this one, there are implementation considerations there. It's always one-to-one relationship, deploy onto the same tenant. Dual right is not a data migration tool. So do not consider this one working as a high performance or a best solution for your data migration. No, it's always recommended to use maybe under 10,000 records you can sync to at one time. Now it's your call. Based what we have discussed today, virtual entities do not require any CRM license onto your Dataverse instance. You don't need to have a field services, marketing, sales. You don't need to have all those type of licenses for any app there. Or all you just need to have the Dataverse or a CDS instance, we call it. Virtual entities, as we have seen, it's easy to configure, and you can, if you just want to get the data from finance and operations and later you want to use it for your portals or canvas apps, you can create so many things on top of finance and operations data. The virtual entities are the best option and the fastest options here. But if you want to keep your finance and operations and Dataverse app, which I've been calling CDS app, tightly bound, means if the customer or account gets created in one of the apps, my other apps will have the same data, and excuse me, then you want to have the data natively into your Dataverse, then you have dual right is your option. If you have a high volume of data and you want to copy across with different apps, then data integrator is the best option for you. Don't need a real time. If you don't need a real time data copy, then it's a data integrator, because that's a schedule based. So these are the few points which you need to remember while making your mind, while making your call here. And these are the different these are the different resources. I have already written few of the blogs onto these different topics: virtual entities, data integrator, and dual right. So you can follow me on my blog using one of these links there. Absolutely, your feedback really matters. Due to the shortage of the time, I'll just look into the questions there. If we have got any questions, please. I'll just quickly check.
Thank you, Faisal, for today's session and for sharing your experience with our community. This is a quick reminder also for the community. If you have any questions related to today's topic, please send it across on the Q&A tab. We still have a few minutes before wrapping up this session. We have also a survey that we're doing to understand more the topics that you would love to see. So if you spend a minute there, use the event ID for today's session. It's 12634 and submit your feedback. We look into that to bring most valuable sessions for you in the future. So yeah, spend a minute there. Tell us about what you would love to see at the Reactor and also give us some feedback relating to today's session. The session is recorded and it will be available later on our channel on YouTube. I'll drop the link also in the Q&A tab. You can follow us as well on Twitter. MSFT Reactor is the Twitter handle and the hashtag is Reactor Abu Dhabi. We also send a monthly newsletter with curated content with all the sessions that are happening. So also make sure you sign up and be part of the newsletter. I'm just gonna share my screen to give you access to all these links. Also, I'll drop them in the chat.
Thank you, Hussam.
All right, I think there are no questions. We look forward to having you again, Faisal, in the 2021 with more exciting topics around dynamics and the implementations for finance and supply chain and yeah, I think that's all for today. Thank you everyone for joining us, and it will be soon on our YouTube channel. Faisal will be sharing with us also the slides, so I'll share the link on Meetup. Make sure you're part of the Meetup group. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next one. Have a great rest of the day and goodbye.